Exposed. Wife's 10 years silent struggle revealed an incredible divorce, shocking billionaire husband. Emily stood at the edge of her perfectly manicured lawn, the sun shining brightly down on their grand home in a cozy suburb of Ohio. To anyone passing by, she was the quintessential supportive wife of a self-made billionaire. Her husband, Jason, basked in the limelight, celebrated not just for his sharp business acumen, but for his philanthropic efforts that seemingly changed countless lives. But behind that polished facade, Emily knew another story, a tale drenched in sacrifice and quiet desperation. As she attended another school event for their 3 children, Emily smiled and waved, but the tightness in her chest grew, constricting her like a heavy weight. "You're so lucky to have Jason," her friends gushed, blind to the simmering turmoil hidden beneath her poised exterior. Lucky? She had given up her own dreams, her identity, to stand behind Jason as he climbed to dizzying heights. 6 years as his unwavering supporter had turned into a decade, and with it, her sense of self began to fade. Tension crackled in the air when Emily discovered that Jason was so fixated on his next big project that he had forgotten to ask about her day. The realization hit hard. He had become blind to her struggles, his ambition blinding him to the emotional toll it had taken on their marriage. Her heart ached as a flood of tears threatened to spill over. Isolation had crept into her life, uninvited, leaving her feeling invisible in her own home. Emily's breaking point came when she decided enough was enough. At the local church, she organized a community forum, ready to expose her decade-long battle against emotional neglect. The air buzzed with anticipation, and for the first time, she felt the stirrings of hope. Her voice quivered slightly, but she pressed on. "I'm not just the wife of a billionaire. I'm Emily." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As she spilled her heart, Emily looked out over the crowd, seeing nods of understanding and support. Neighbors who had admired her from afar, unaware of her internal struggles, began to share their stories too. A tapestry of silent battles emerged, revealing emotional scars that paralleled her own. They were all fighting to be seen in a world that valued image over authenticity. Meanwhile, Jason sat in the back, wrestling with the truth cracking through his carefully constructed world.
He watched as his wife transformed from a shadow into a beacon of courage, the whispers of the community amplifying the betrayal he never intended to foster. Could he truly face the reality of his neglect, the weight of his success? As Emily stood at the crossroads of self-discovery, she could feel the fire within her intensifying. But with every step forward came the chilling thought of what a divorce would mean, not just for her, but for their children as well. She glanced back at the crowd, their encouragement resonating in her ears, yet uncertainty lingered palpably around her. Could she ever separate her identity from Jason? As the murmurs in the church quieted to a hush, her heart raced. The future was a tense question mark, but in that moment, one thing was clear. It was time to make a choice, and the journey had only just begun. Emily's heart echoed in the silence as she finished her speech, the warmth of the community's love enveloping her like a warm blanket. She felt lighter, yet heavier with the weight of her decision. Slowly, she stepped away from the podium, her hands still trembling from the rawness of her emotions. Those moments of shared vulnerability shone a light on her path, yet the shadows of doubt loomed larger than ever. Jason fidgeted in his seat, his chest tight with regret. The voices of the community floated to him, each one a reminder of how he had failed Emily. They spoke truthfully, passionately about their own struggles, resonating with the pain he thought only his wife had felt. Maybe they were right, not just about their experiences, but about him. Did he want to be the man who had turned a blind eye? The thought clawed at him. As the murmurs of support continued, he felt a surge of resolve. "Emily!" His voice broke through the crowd as he called for her, but she didn't turn back.
The longing in his voice hung in the air, heavy and full of unsaid words. For the first time, he was confronted with the reality he had brushed aside for too long. He fought against the urge to chase after her, knowing the moment was hers to own. Outside, crisp autumn air filled Emily's lungs as she stepped into the parking lot. The colors of fallen leaves mirrored the tumult within her. Each step felt surreal, the weight of her words still settling around her heart. Trying to process her newfound power, she leaned against the car and closed her eyes. What if she really did choose herself? Children echoed from a distance as she remembered her little ones huddling together at the school play last week. Their innocent expressions, reflecting dreams and hopes, made her stomach twist. Did she have the strength to upend everything they knew, all for the sake of her happiness? Would they ever forgive her for shifting their reality? Just then, Emily heard footsteps. She opened her eyes to see her neighbor, Sarah, approaching with tears of pride shimmering in her eyes.
"You were incredible," she said softly, her voice infused with admiration. "You opened a door many of us have wanted to walk through for years. Thank you." Something in Sarah's words sparked a flicker of hope. If Emily could lead others to speak their truth, perhaps she could do the same for herself. There was something almost liberating about it all. The thrill of stepping into the unknown was intoxicating, but it came with risks. What if Jason refused to change, even after she opened her heart wider than it had ever been? What would happen to their children, caught in the crossfire? A knot formed in her stomach. As she drove away from the church, rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a golden hue over the street. The beauty outside felt almost ironic against her turmoil. Emily took a deep breath, gripping the steering wheel with newfound determination. This was only the beginning, she reminded herself. The choice to break free from the shackles of her past was like standing at the top of a hill, staring down largely into an unknown valley below. And just then, her phone buzzed in the cup holder. It was a message from Jason. "We need to talk." Her heart raced, a whirlwind of emotions threatening to overflow. What would he say? Was he finally ready to meet her halfway? Or had he just hit the panic button? As she glanced back at the text, the weight of the conversation loomed large. Emily knew that the next step could change everything. With her heart pounding, she replied, "Okay, let's talk." But this conversation would be no ordinary one. It was the moment that could redefine their entire story. What truths would emerge when they finally face each other? Emily parked her car outside the cozy cafe where they had shared countless meals, laughter, and dreams. Now, as she sat in the parking lot, the familiar sight felt like an anchor trying to hold her back. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out, each footfall echoing in her mind, as if it were reminding her of the gravity of what lay ahead. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee wafted through the air, but it couldn't mask the knot tightening in her stomach. She scanned the room for Jason and spotted him at their usual table, his hands folded on the surface, his expression unreadable. Uncertainty gripped her as she approached. "Hey," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," he replied, his eyes darting from the table to her face. The silence between them felt loud and heavy. "Thanks for agreeing to meet," she continued, forcing a smile despite the tension. He shifted in his seat, a wave of unease washing over him. I couldn't ignore your speech anymore, Emily. The things you said, they hit deep." His words hung there, an invitation to open the floodgates. Could he truly feel what she spoke about? Was he ready to confront their reality? "Did you mean what you said?" he asked, his voice tentative. "About choosing yourself?" She nodded slowly, swallowing the sting of tears that threatened to erupt. "I did. I've been drowning in this marriage, holding back for too long. I can't keep pretending everything is okay." Jason's face reflected the turmoil of conflicting emotions. "But I thought we were making it work, together." His words struck with the weight of a decade spent avoiding the hard conversations. "I used to think so too," she admitted, raw honesty spilling out as her heart raced. "But I can't stay silent, not anymore." He looked down, fixing his gaze on the table, as if searching for answers hidden within the wood grain. "I didn't see it. I thought things would get better over time." Emily felt a shift in the air. This moment, fragile yet potent, was a chance for both of them, an opportunity to revisit the ruins of what they had built together.
But were they both willing to reconstruct something new? "I want to believe there's a way forward, Jason," she said, her voice strong yet gentle. "But it seems you haven't been seeing me. I need you to step up. I need to know you'll fight for us. Are you willing to do that?" He hesitated, wiping a hand across his face, as if trying to erase the doubt etched there. "What if I fail? I can't bear the thought of losing you, of losing the kids. It terrifies me." "Change is terrifying," she responded softly, "but staying in the same place feels like dying inside. I want us to be better, Jason, for us and for our kids. They deserve to see what a real partnership looks like." His eyes sparkled with unshed tears, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "I want that too, but I can't promise I'll get it right instantly." "Neither can I," she replied, a small smile breaking through the tension. "But it's a start, isn't it?" As their conversation unfolded, warmth began to seep into the cold spaces between them. They spoke of fears, dreams, and what a renewed relationship could look like. Emily felt a spark of something she had thought long extinguished, hope. And just as she was beginning to believe they could navigate this path together, Jason's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced down, his face paling. "I have to take this," he said, stepping away. Emily watched him leave, her heart pounding. She recognized the pain of uncertainty lingering in her chest, but the conversation they just had shifted something indescribable in her. Could this be a turning point, or was it just a temporary fix? Her thoughts spiraled, the doors to possibility swinging wide open, leaving her vulnerable yet hopeful. She loved him, but what if he stumbled once more? The question loomed larger than ever. And then, as Jason returned, his face flushed with urgency, he said, "Emily, I just got news that might change everything." The world around her faded, her heart racing as she braced herself for what was to come. What could be so monumental that it shifted the contours of their already fragile situation? Emily's breath hitched as Jason's words hung in the air like a dark cloud about to pour. What could possibly redefine everything they were struggling to rebuild? "Emily," he started again, his voice trembling slightly. "It's about my job. The company," he hesitated, raking a hand through his hair. "They're making some major cuts. I might be out of a job soon." Her heart sank. This wasn't what she expected. The promise of renewal she had just begun to feel crumbled beneath the weight of his news. "Jason, does this mean—" "I don't know," he interrupted, frustration gleaming in his eyes. "It means I'm scared, and I don't want to lose everything else in my life too." She flinched at the word everything, feeling it slice through the hope they had started to build. "But you said you want to fight for us. How does this help?" His shoulders slumped. "It doesn't. It's just another hurdle. And now I don't know if I can take it all on. I can't afford to fail again." Emily felt a wave of compassion mixed with frustration. He was once again pulling away. "Jason, we're in this together. You don't have to face every storm alone. Don't shut me out." He looked into her eyes, and for a moment she glimpsed a flicker of the old Jason, the one who would sit across from her, confident and steadfast. "You mean that?" "Yes, I meant every word. Our kids need to see us standing strong, not crumbling under pressure. And if that means facing this uncertainty together, then so be it. We will find a way." His silence was deafening, and she felt the walls beginning to collapse around them again. Just as she was close to giving up hope, he reached out, squeezing her hand. A spark ignited between them, tiny but fierce. "Okay, together," he whispered, his voice now steely with determination. "I'll talk to my boss tomorrow. I have to know where I stand, and we can figure out the rest from there." It felt monumental, their shared decision, as if for the first time they were both stepping onto the same ground. But deep down, Emily knew that it wouldn't be easy. Motivated by love and fear, they had to navigate through the uncertainty like a tightrope. Minutes passed, and the tension slowly eased, transforming into a cautious optimism. Emily felt lightened. Maybe this moment could be pivotal after all. She wanted to believe that brighter days lay ahead. As they finished their coffees, she couldn't resist testing the waters. What if we also saw a therapist together, just to help guide us through the rough patches? His brow furrowed, and she watched as he contemplated her suggestion. That could help, I suppose, but only if we promise to be open about everything. No more secrets. She smiled, heart swelling with warmth. Absolutely. We'll build a foundation on truth. Emily felt renewed excitement as they began to plan their first session. It was a step, small yet significant, but just then a loud crash interrupted their intimacy.
A glass shattered on the floor nearby, startling both of them. They turned to see a couple arguing roughly at the other side of the cafe, the intensity of their words spilling over into threats. The tension in the air became palpable again, reminding Emily of their own struggles. Would they end up like that couple, lost in anger and resentment? As the scene unfolded, she felt Jason's hand tighten around hers. In that moment, she realized their battle wasn't just about their relationship. It was a fight to redefine their roles as partners and as parents. Emily, we can't let it get that bad, can we? Jason's voice was suddenly serious again. No, we can't, she said, meeting his gaze, feeling the urgency surge in her chest. We just can't. As they remained locked in that moment of connection, she hoped that together they could fight whatever was coming. Uncertainty loomed like shadows in the background, but the flicker of hope burned brightly. Yet, as they left the cafe hand in hand, she couldn't shake the thought that there was still more to uncover about what lay ahead. What would it take to truly break their cycle of fear and disillusion? In the back of her mind, a lingering worry hung. Were they strong enough to face all the demons waiting to emerge? Would their new commitment withstand the tests that were surely on their way? The morning after their conversation felt different. Emily's heart was still heavy with uncertainty, yet it also carried a flicker of hope. She watched Jason as he made breakfast, his brow furrowed in concentration. The familiar sight brought comfort, a reminder of the life they had built. But this time, something was amiss. Their kitchen, usually filled with laughter and light, felt charged with tension. "Coffee's ready," he said, pouring a steaming cup while giving her a sideways glance. His eyes were shadowed, the weight of impending news pressing down harder than before. "Thank you," she replied, forcing a smile, even as an undercurrent of dread twisted in her stomach. "Are you feeling ready for your meeting today?" He paused, the moment stretching between them. "Ready as I'll ever be," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Emily sensed the fears bubbling beneath his facade, knitting her brows in concern. "Just remember, no matter what happens, we're a team," she reminded him gently, wishing she could take away the anxiety etched into his features. "Yeah, a team," he echoed, but it felt more like a promise unfulfilled than a rally cry. As the minutes ticked by, the silence grew more suffocating. Their kids were running late for school, their energy juxtaposing the heavy atmosphere surrounding the adults. Emily watched them, their innocent chatter and laughter bittersweet. They didn't deserve the tension that hung like a storm cloud over their breakfast table. "Mom, Dad, hurry up!" shouted Ava, her 8-year-old excitement cutting through the tension.
Jason ruffled her hair, a half-smile breaking through his worries. "We'll be right there, champ." As they rushed the kids out the door, Emily grabbed Jason's hand and squeezed. "You've got this." "Yeah, thanks," he said softly, and for a moment they were just a couple again, partners in all things, facing the unknown together. But as Jason drove to work, the air in the car was thick with uncertainty, the commute feeling like an impending countdown. Every stoplight felt like a weight on his shoulders. When they finally arrived at the office, he turned to her, emotions shifting like the clouds outside. "I'll call you after the meeting," he promised, but Emily wasn't convinced. "Please do. I really want to know what they say." He nodded, eyes haunted. "Yeah, me too." As he walked into the building, she felt a well of anxiety building inside her. Would he get a reprieve, or would this be the moment everything shifted again? Alone in the car, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before a terrifying storm. Emily spent the morning tidying up around the house, yet her mind drifted. She pulled out her phone and looked through their old photos, moments of joy frozen in time against the backdrop of their family life. There they were, laughing on vacations, celebrating milestones, living carefree. It felt like a lifetime ago. But those pictures also mirrored the shadows creeping in. The hope they forged together felt more fragile now, like glass. What if Jason lost his job? What would that mean for them? For the kids? The phone ringing jolted her from her thoughts. It was Jason. Her heart raced as she answered, anticipation mixing with trepidation. Hey, his voice was laced with tension. Can we talk? Sure. Are you... She hesitated. Is everything okay? Not exactly, he began, and the tremor in his tone sent shivers down her spine. It's complicated. There it was, the wave crashing, washing away their hope. Emily felt her breath hitch as she braced for the fallout. What had he uncovered? Just tell me, she urged, her voice steady, despite the chaos brewing inside her. Let's meet at the park, he suggested. It's better in person. Her stomach twisted. Jason, please. Just meet me, okay? The line went silent, leaving her alone with her thoughts, dread pooling in her chest. As she stared at the park's address flashing on her screen, she knew deep down that whatever lay ahead could either mend them or tear them apart forever. With a heavy heart, she took a deep breath. What truth awaited her? And what choices would they have to make next? Emily parked in the lot, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. The park looked as it always did, vibrant with greenery and dotted with families enjoying their day. But what should have felt like a sanctuary now loomed over her, a place of unspoken truths and anxious questions.
As she stepped out of the car, she caught sight of Jason sitting on a bench under the shade of an oak tree. His head hung low, shoulders slumped, as if carrying an unbearable load. With each step toward him, her heart pounded louder, a drumbeat of anxiety echoing through her thoughts. "Hey," she said softly, finding a seat beside him. He looked up, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes lost their haunted look, but the wavering smile only deepened the worry etched across his features. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Of course. What's going on?" She fought to keep her voice steady, although the fear bubbling inside threatened to boil over. He took a deep breath, scanning the horizon as if searching for the right words in the clouds. "So, I went into the meeting," he began, his gaze drifting back to her. "And it was worse than I thought." "Worse how?" "They're downsizing," he said, biting his lip. "They let go of several people right before my meeting. And I'm one of them." The words hung between them, heavy and suffocating. Emily's heart sank, and she felt as if the ground had just opened beneath her feet. "But you said you were promising. You worked so hard." The disbelief poured from her lips. "I know," he replied, running a hand through his hair, frustration and despair mixing in his voice. "But it's not about that. They're looking for cost-cutting measures. And my position was eliminated." "No, no, no." The words were a mantra against the reality crashing in around her. "What does this mean for us? For the kids?" Jason's expression twisted, pain flickering in his eyes. "I don't know. I just don't know." The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Emily could feel the weight of each passing second. A cacophony of thoughts raced through her head. Mortgage payments, school supplies, birthday parties. Everything they'd worked so hard for now felt precarious, hanging by a thread. "Did you at least get a severance package?" she managed to ask, voice trembling. "It's not great," he said, voice bordering on defeat. "A couple of months. But what happens after that? We're going to have to tighten our belts. Look for work. And what if I can't find anything?" Tears pooled in her eyes, blurring her vision as she reached for his hand, squeezing it tight. "We'll figure it out together. We always do." Jason looked at her, revealing the cracks in his bravado. "What if I let you down? What if I can't provide for you or the kids?" "Stop. You're not just a paycheck, Jason. You're my partner. Let's work through this. We'll find other options. Maybe we can cut some expenses. Look for jobs together. We'll be okay." He nodded slowly. "I want to believe that." The moment hung heavy with uncertainty, and Emily's resolve wavered. There was a terrifying unknown waiting for them, shadows of worry creeping back into their lives. But just beneath that fear, a growing determination flickered, a fire they had kindled together, deep within them both. As silence snaked its way back in, she found herself gripping his hand tighter, a lifeline between them in the storm of their reality. But then a thought crossed her mind, a tiny, nagging fear that slipped from her lips unbidden.
What if there's more to this? What if you were targeted for a reason? Jason's brow furrowed deeper. What do you mean? She shook her head, a feeling of dread settling in her stomach like a stone. Just be careful. If there's more going on here than we know, we need to figure it out together. His eyes filled with uncertainty, the weight of their new reality closing in on them. And just as Emily thought they had reached a moment of clarity, doubt slipped in, leaving her wondering how much deeper this rabbit hole could go. As the sun dipped lower, shadows elongated, echoing the uncertainty that lay ahead. What other secrets awaited them in this unfolding chapter? As dusk settled around them, the park began to murmur with the sounds of families retreating, children laughing, and the shrill cries of distant birds. But for Jason and Emily, the joyful noise felt muted, a world away from their reality. Maybe I should talk to someone, Jason suggested suddenly, breaking the silence. A career coach or a headhunter? They might have insights on how to navigate this. Emily nodded, hopeful that proactive steps could ease the burden. That sounds like a smart idea. It's better than sitting here spiraling. She squeezed his hand tighter, grateful for his willingness to fight, despite the shadows looming over him. But even as she said it, another thought nagged at her mind, the deeper implication of her earlier question. What if Jason was right? What if this wasn't just about the job? She couldn't shake the feeling that there might be more to it. Are you sure you don't want to talk to anyone at work? Maybe someone who would know if things weren't on the up and up? She pressed gently. Jason shifted in his seat, his brow creasing in thought. I don't want to raise any suspicions. What if it backfires? But I can't ignore what you said. It struck a chord. A chill ran down Emily's spine. She glanced around the park, as if the very trees were listening. Maybe you should consider talking to your old colleagues, those who've left or been let go. They might know something. He looked down, the weight of worry evident in his furrowed brow. You think they'd actually tell me if they suspected anything? I hope so. It could give us the insight we need, and I can help. We won't back down. The determination in her voice sparked something in Jason. He finally looked up, meeting her eyes with a flicker of hope, though it was still clouded with uncertainty. I really don't want to believe they would do something like that. It's unthinkable. But if there's any chance, we need to investigate.
As they sat in silence, Emily's mind raced. The world around them faded, just two people wrapped up in a dilemma bigger than themselves. She reflected on their life, their love, the kids, all the dreams they shared. What if there's something else, too? What if this could happen again somewhere else? Employees losing jobs for reasons that don't make sense, she blurted. I don't know, Em, Jason said, frustration creeping into his voice. I just don't know who to trust anymore. Then let's build our own trust. We can reach out to friends, family, find out who's been in similar situations. We'll gather information, we'll protect ourselves. Emily leaned closer, urgency filling her heart. We need to be smart about this. Jason took a deep breath, absorbing her words. All right, but where do we start? Just as the question hung in the air, Emily's phone buzzed in her pocket. She fished it out, an unknown number flashing on the screen. Nervously, she glanced at Jason. Should I answer? Maybe it's something important, he replied, uncertainty creeping back into his voice. Taking a breath, she pressed accept. Hello? Is this Emily Gardner? The voice on the other end cracked slightly, tense and hurried. Yes, who's this? She replied, her heart racing. I have information regarding your husband's job. You need to listen closely. The shadows deepened around them, and both felt a chill. In just a moment, everything could change again. Emily's breath hitched in her throat. She could hear the urgency in the voice, each word dripping with weight. What do you mean? What do you know about Jason's job? Listen, the voice insisted. This isn't easy to talk about. The atmosphere there is toxic, and your husband, he's in the crosshairs. Jason leaned closer, his expression a mix of concern and disbelief. The reality around them, usually crowded with laughter and life, seemed to slip away, leaving only this tense phone call hanging in the air. What do you mean, crosshairs? Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. She could feel the warmth of Jason's hand, but the chill in her heart amplified everything. Someone's been watching him. I can't say much more, but if he's got old colleagues, they could be your best bet for understanding. Emily's pulse quickened. What should we do? Speak to them. Do it quickly.
I can't say any more, the voice urged, and before she could ask another question, it hung up. A blank silence consumed them. Jason ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head slightly. Who was that? I don't know, they didn't say, she admitted, but they know something. Something isn't right at your job. His eyes darkened. How do we trust a random caller? This could be some kind of prank. As crazy as it sounds, I think we need to take it seriously, Emily insisted. This isn't just about you losing your job. It feels like something bigger. The weight of their current situation pressed down on them even harder. The bustling sounds of the park faded, replaced by the drum of Jason's heartbeat echoing in his ears. Emily could see the gears turning in his mind, understanding how disconcerting this all was, but even more so, how eerily serendipitous it could turn out. Okay, he finally said, pulling himself up from the mental fog. Let's figure out who we can contact. I can start with a couple of my old coworkers. They might be willing to talk, especially if they feel something's off too. She nodded, relieved to see him taking charge. We'll revisit everything that's happened, gather all the pieces. There's gotta be a pattern. Their thoughts tangled together as they talked about old connections, who could provide insight, and even concerns about who might be spreading rumors. Yet in the back of her mind, another question loomed large. What if Jason was next? Could it really be true that someone targeted him? Before they could spiral again, Emily suggested, let's just take it one step at a time. Reach out, find out who's still willing to chat. I'll accompany you if you want. Yeah, let's do it, Jason replied with more resolve. Yet in his eyes, Emily saw unease lurking like a shadow. As they began to plan, Emily's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, a jolt of apprehension twisting her stomach. This time it was a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on Maple Street at noon tomorrow. This is important. Jason shifted nervously beside her. What do we do? The cafe was halfway across town, a place they used to frequent during lighter days, yet now it carried a weight of uncertainty and fear. Emily stared at the message, her heart racing again. I think we have to go. If this person knows more, we can't afford to miss the chance. Jason hesitated, his mind racing with all possible dangers, but the flickering hope in Emily's eyes urged him forward. Fine, we'll go, he said slowly, swallowing hard. They both shared a fleeting moment of determination, yet the gnawing fear raised its head again. What awaited them would change everything. As dark clouds gathered overhead, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of uncovering something monumental. Life was about to plunge them into a storm, and they had little idea how deep it would go. Let's get ready, she said, her voice steady yet full of anticipation. Tomorrow could change everything. A sense of foreboding hung in the air, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, bracing for the shockwaves that their next steps might unleash. The morning light sliced through the curtains, washing the room in a pale glow. Emily lay wide awake, her mind racing with questions that seemed to multiply. What could this mysterious caller know? Was Jason truly in danger? She turned to see Jason still asleep, his face soft and peaceful, unaware of the chaos swirling around them.
A small wave of warmth surged through her, breaking the chill of worry that gripped her heart. They had made it through so much together, but this felt different. This felt like a reckoning. She quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him. As she brewed coffee, the smell filled the kitchen, a small comfort amidst the brewing storm. Her body moved on autopilot, barely registering the movements. Each tick of the clock was a reminder that time was running out. At precisely 11, she could feel her stomach churn. The cafe on Maple Street was only a few miles away, but right now it felt like an entire world away. She took a moment to breathe, holding on to hope that the meeting wouldn't just unravel everything, but could perhaps lead them to safety. Jason joined her, his hair tousled, his eyes bleary with sleep. What time is it? He mumbled, catching the scent of coffee. Almost time to go, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. We're meeting someone about your job. He straightened up, the haze of sleep fleeing under the weight of reality. Right. Are you ready? Ready as I'll ever be, she said, forcing a smile. But inside, a storm was whirling. The drive felt like a blur. The streets passed by in a whirl of color, but nothing registered. Emily squeezed Jason's hand, needing that connection to remind her that they were not alone in this. As they pulled up to the cafe, memories flooded back of coffee sipped lazily, laughter shared. Now it was all shadowed by unease. They entered,
the soft bell above the door marking their arrival, the scent of fresh pastries wafting around them. A few patrons glanced their way, but their focus was on one corner table. A figure sat there, face obscured, collar turned up against the chill. "Is that?" Jason squinted, searching for recognition. "Hope so," she whispered back, her eyes fixed on the stranger. As they approached, the figure looked up, revealing a familiar face. It was Jordan, an old colleague of Jason's, someone he hadn't seen in years. Jason's surprise was palpable, but Emily sensed apprehension in every tight line of his face. "Jordan?" Jason asked, hesitating. "Hey man," Jordan replied, his eyes darting around as if the walls had ears. "Are you okay?" Jason's voice betrayed a hint of fear. Jordan nodded, but the worry in his eyes told another story. "It's not safe here. We need to talk somewhere private." Emily's heart raced. Whatever Jordan had to say was clearly dire. "Wait," she interjected. "If it's about Jason's job, you can say it here. We need to know what's going on, and we don't have time to waste." Jordan glanced around the cafe once more, his voice dropping to a low murmur. "There's a lot you're not aware of. Things at the company are different now. Jason's being targeted for something he doesn't even know about." Jason's expression turned to stone. "Targeted? What do you mean?"
"I can't say too much in public, but trust me, you need to listen if you want to be safe. There are people who want to take you down, Jason, and it goes deeper than just promotion politics." Emily felt the blood drain from her face. This was bad. Worse than she thought. "Let's go outside," Jason said with urgency darkening the calm of their usual cafe banter. As they stepped out into the crisp air, the weight of their reality hung over them. "Talk to us," she urged, desperation lacing her tone. Jordan took a breath, his gaze flicking toward the street as if someone might be watching. "You need to know exactly what you're getting into. Don't underestimate who you're dealing with." But before he could finish, a distant sound shattered the moment. A blaring horn, an angry shout, and an unmistakable crash echoed down the avenue at the intersection. "What was that?" Emily shouted, instinctively reaching out for Jason's hand. Before they could react, a black SUV screeched to a halt near them. Every heartbeat echoed like a countdown, and with every second, the danger closed in. "Get in the car," Jordan snapped, fear igniting urgency in his voice. Jason and Emily exchanged panicked glances, knowing they had to choose quickly. What did they walk into? And who were these people really after? As they clambered into the car, a sinking feeling settled over Emily. The truth was emerging, but so were new dangers at every turn. The tension in the air was electric as they huddled in the car. Jordan wasted no time starting the engine, his face a mask of urgency. "We need to get away from here," he said, glancing in the rearview mirror, heart racing as if he could feel the threat creeping closer. Jason turned to Emily, panic flickering in his eyes. "What did he mean, targeted?" he whispered, the weight of those words sinking in. "Focus on getting away first," Jordan interrupted, taking a sharp turn that sent them lurching. "They're watching your every move, Jason. You have to trust me. I would never put you in danger if it wasn't serious." As the car sped down the road, Emily's mind raced faster than the tires on the pavement. "What's going on at your job, Jason? Tell us everything," she said, urgency threading through her voice. They have cutbacks, but it's more than just budget issues," Jason stammered, grappling with the bare truth. "Jordan, what do you know?" Jordan took a deep breath, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. "There's a rift within the organization, and some higher-ups are playing dirty. Your name's been dragged into it, but the reasons are distorted. It's about jealousy, power, even something about your philanthropic efforts being a distraction. They want to make you look bad." Each word felt like a punch in the gut for Emily. "What do they expect to gain?" she asked, fighting tears. "Control," Jordan replied grimly. "They're trying to position themselves for a takeover." To do that, they need a scapegoat, someone to blame when their dirty dealings come to light. The implications were staggering as they tore through the streets. Jason's face drained of color. "But what can we do? I can fight to clear my name, but how do we expose this?" "Information is key," Jordan said, his brow furrowing as they swerved around a corner. "We need to gather evidence, connect with others who have been let go and hear their stories. The more voices we have, the harder it will be for them to silence you." Emily felt a surge of hope. "So we aren't powerless," she said. "We can push back." "Exactly," Jordan affirmed, though doubt lingered in his eyes. "But be careful. They have eyes and ears everywhere, and trust me, they won't let go of their grip easily."
As they drove toward an abandoned warehouse, the atmosphere turned from panic to a tense resolve. "Where are we going?" Jason asked, glancing over at Jordan. "To meet an ally," Jordan replied. "Someone who knows more than I do and has contacts inside the company." They parked in a dimly lit lot. Emily stepped out, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she took in the old structure that loomed forebodingly. "Stay close," Jason whispered, taking her hand firmly. The three of them entered cautiously, the air musty and thick with dust. Jordan led them through the winding halls, finally stopping in a less than reputable back room where a man was waiting. "Mark," Jordan said, relief easing some of the strain on his features. "Jordan," the man greeted, and then his eyes flicked to Jason. "You must be the one they're after. I've heard a lot about you." "What do we need to know?" Emily interjected, her voice steady, even as uncertainty flickered within her. Mark explained the internal power struggle within the company, detailing alliances and rivalries. He spoke of whispers behind closed doors, of sabotage and ulterior motives rotting the company from within. As the dialogue unfolded, Emily felt Jason's hand, thick with tension, tighten around hers. "You need to prepare for a storm, both in the office and the public eye," Mark advised, glancing toward the door as if expecting trouble. "They will fight back any way they can." Jason took a deep breath, determination etching itself into the lines of his face. "What do I need to do?" Mark nodded appreciatively. "Start gathering documentation, emails, communications, anything that can serve as evidence. You're going to have to speak to the press eventually." The words landed heavily in the room, sending ripples of unease through Emily. "But won't that just escalate things? What if it puts Jason in danger?" "Better to expose their lies than to silently accept being a casualty," Jordan reiterated, his eyes steely and serious. They understood the stakes. Their family, their future depended on it. As Jason nodded, a shared sense of resolve enveloped them.
Fear dulled to a steady resolve. They were about to fight back, and no longer were they merely victims. They spent hours poring over files and discussions in the little office, piecing together the puzzle they'd been thrust into. With each revelation, clarity came, but so did the realization of the looming battle ahead. Finally, exhausted and weary, they stepped out into the cool night air. A shared understanding passed between them. They had allies now, but the road ahead would be riddled with pitfalls. As they regrouped in the flickering streetlight, Jason turned to them, hope bursting from the depths of doubt. What if we could rally others to join us? Friends, colleagues, the community? Emily's heart raced at the possibilities. "You're right. Our stories mean something, and together they mean even more." With the challenges laid out before them, the fear began to morph into fuel. Emily grasped Jason's hand tightly. "We're not alone in this." "What do you say?" Jason asked, looking at Jordan and Mark. "I say we take back control," Jordan pointedly replied. And as they stood together in that moment, facing the unknown, they understood. They were ready to fight, ready to reclaim not only Jason's name, but also their lives, their dreams, and their future. It was a moment of transformation, one that would echo of hope, courage, and an unyielding spirit. With purpose in their hearts, they forged ahead, united, undeterred by the shadows trying to engulf them. Tomorrow was only a day away, with battles on the horizon, but together they could carve out the truth, one fight at a time. And there was no turning back. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.